Hello and welcome to the Ice Talks, where we implement change every day. Hey, this is Harold S. Reed Jr. and welcome to another episode of the Ice Talks, where we implement change every day. Yeah, I said it twice. Listen, this is going to be a special podcast. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning, my time, that I'm making this podcast, but I'm inspired. And what I'm discovering is that I had a lot to say when I started doing these podcasts. I'm into my mid-late 40s of episodes of these podcasts, and the podcasts are becoming more spread out because I find myself searching for inspiration. And a lot of my earlier podcasts, I was doing 1, 2, I think one time I did 3 in one day. I had all this inspiration to get this subject matter and this content out to share with you that I just, when it hit me, I let it go. And then I paced myself. And then now it's like weeks will go by before I do another podcast. And I feel bad about that because I want to give you constant content. So I'm going to work on that. That's a me thing. I'm going to work on that. But, and I say that to say that I'm making this podcast now. I guarantee you before the end of this 24-hour cycle, there will be another podcast. I'm inspired at this point. I'm inspired because I want to talk to you about context. I know a couple seconds ago I used the word content. That's what I'm talking about. What I'm giving. No, actually, no. The content is what I'm giving you. This podcast this episode is content. All my previous episodes are content. Context is not so much what I'm talking about, but the way I'm talking about it. And this episode is about context. And it's not going to, I don't know how motivational or even motivational it's going to be, because I'm not even prepared. This is what we call in the hip hop community freestyle. I'm going totally off the dome. For those who are not familiar with the vernacular, I'm speaking as the words come to me. Last night, I was on my Uber hustle, driving around, picking up rides, taking people from point A to point B, listening to CNN as I do, because I have satellite radio in the car. And I heard they were talking about how Kevin Hart got tapped to do the Oscars, but there's a problem because people pulled up old, long ago tweets that he put up that were gay or anti-gay or perceived as anti-gay. And so Kevin is like scrambling through his past tweets, deleting tweets. He made a video where he, tried to explain himself and apologize and so on and so forth. And then, I handled that as far as driving. I, listened to the newscast or whatever and gave it and developed my own views there at that point. And then when I got home, I'm unwinding and I'm Facebook friends with the comedian Rodney Perry. And he had put up a Facebook Live where he was talking about it briefly. And I shared some thoughts with him and he spoke about them on his live. And I want to talk to you about context. See, Kevin Hart is a comedian. Cat Williams, comedian. Richard Pryor, comedian. Eddie Murphy, comedian. George Carlin, comedian. I listen to what these gentlemen say, and there's some women out there, but I'm not getting into a gender thing or a race thing. As a matter of fact, it's funny, I was listening to Bill Burr earlier. And the stuff that comes out of Bill Burr's mouth is ridiculous, but it's funny. Why? because I'm listening to it in the context within which it's being presented. There is no way on God's green earth, and if you've never heard or watched Bill Burr, you need to go to Netflix and you just need to type in BILL space BURR. Bill Burr is one of my favorite comedians. He is hilarious. But you can't in your right mind, Bill Burr in his right mind can't do what he says he would do in his routine. Why? Because it's a matter of context. His routine is just that. It's a stand-up comedy routine. He is saying stuff to make you laugh. Kevin Hart made some gay jokes. Jokes! These are jokes. I will quote Tracy Morgan. If you could take a D, you could take a joke. It's a matter of context. Understand the realm in which things are being said. Now, there are times and places to say what you want to say or what must be said. And I think that people are, in this society, people are, one, too sensitive, two, taking anything and everything they possibly can out of context. I have a problem with this new, and I call it new, but it's not really new because it's been going on for a couple years now, more than a couple years. This whole quote-unquote shaming thing. Slut shaming, fat shaming, gay shaming. Whenever somebody wants to make somebody feel bad about something, or better stated, whenever someone wants to make other people feel bad about talking about whatever they're talking about, and they're the object that's being spoken about, they call it shaming, right? Listen, if you go out on a Friday night, and I'm talking about women, if you go out on a Friday night dressed like, hey, come get it, and you give it up all night, and then you give it up all Saturday night, and then you go to church on Sunday morning, and you wondering why, and you ain't even changed your clothes, and you wonder why people look at you funny, right? Listen, they call that slut shaming if you talk about it. If somebody overeats and they're big and they're fat and they're happy and they're obese or whatever you want to call it, they call it fat shaming. Listen, if you don't want to be healthy, that's on you. Listen, you be who you are and don't be ashamed of who you are. If you want to go, I think there's a song that goes, that I'm paraphrasing because I don't know the exact words. If I want to go out all night and party all night and then go to church on Sunday morning, go out all night Saturday and go to church on Sunday morning, ain't nobody business if I do. I'm paraphrasing. I don't know the exact words of the song, but I remember hearing something like that a while ago, right? If you want to just eat, and not exercise, and you swell up to 350, 400 pounds, and you got to have 8 pallbearers when you die of high blood pressure and congestive heart failure and diabetes or whatever. Listen, don't be ashamed. Be you. Love who you are. And if you are how you accept yourself, or rather, if you accept yourself as you are, then whatever anybody else has to say, to hell with it. I don't believe in shaming. I don't believe in the concept of it. However, it exists. See, and I believe it exists because we are a weak society right now. We are a weak society right now. See, I'm a 70s, 80s baby. I grew up when black people were beginning to face racism head on, and white people began to understand we weren't taking this mess no more, and you couldn't do nothing about it. All right, I'm in my life where white people say nigger around me. Yeah, I said the N word. White people say nigger around me. They likely to lose some teeth. Not that I condone violence, but again, I'm talking about context. Understand the arena within which I'm speaking. So let me bring this back. Kevin Hart made some comments in a routine, comedy routines or Twitter or what have you, and people are throwing that back at him, saying he shouldn't host the Oscars because he made these anti-gay comments. He didn't make anti-gay comments. He made jokes. Listen, and again, I go back to what Tracy Morgan said. If you gay, listen, we should be able to joke about anything and everything short of something that's harmful or detrimental. And you know what? We can even make jokes about that. You know why? Because sometimes you have to laugh to keep from crying. That, and also, when you get down to the bare root of any lie or any joke, there is a seed, an element of truth that makes that lie or that joke substantial. Yes, I said lie and or joke. See, the best lies have seeds of truth in it. The best jokes have seeds of truth in them. But it's a matter of context. It's how you say what you say and the arena wherein which you say it that gives it life, that gives it meaning. If Kevin Hart is standing in an auditorium or a stadium or a forum where there's thousands of people watching, or if he's just on his damn phone doing an Instagram or Facebook live video and he's talking smack, because that is how this man made his millions. Talking smack, making jokes. If I understand that this is what this man does, and I met Kevin Hart. I met Kevin Hart before Kevin Hart was famous. And, you know, dude was hilarious then. But understand, you know, what's said in a particular environment is given life within that environment. Once you take what is said in that environment out of that environment and try to give it life someplace else and try to give it a different meaning, you minimize, if not eradicate, what was said. Now, if Kevin Hart was actually out there being anti-gay, if he was out there being mean, if he was out there being cruel, if he just got on Facebook and said, you know, the F word that rhymes with maggot and just went all kinds of crazy, and it wasn't, you know, the comedy thing happening, he was just ranting and raving, that's a different thing. If he was actually standing in front of the Oscar audience and just came out with a whole bunch of jokes in that area, that'd be different. If Barack Obama would have come out with a bunch of gay jokes, that would be different. See, it's a matter of context. But when a comedian says something, and you know what? There are gay people at Kevin Hart concerts. And there are Kevin Hart stand-up routines and concerts where he has made gay jokes. Tracy Morgan has made gay jokes. Again, I excuse me, I quote Tracy Morgan. If you could take a dick, you could take a joke. I said D before, but that's what he said. If you could take a dick, you could take a joke. Listen, I grew up in the era of Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Red Fox, Archie Bunker, George Jefferson. You know, when racism was attacked head on. Racism was approached and dealt with head on. I just got through watching a routine between Richard Pryor and Chevy Chase, where Chevy Chase was giving Richard Pryor a job interview. He said, okay, we're going to have a word association test. And I'm going to say the word and I'm going to say a word and you say the first thing that comes to your mind. And and what happened was Chevy Chase began to say racial things and Richard Pryor responded in kind. And it's hilarious. Go ahead and Google that. Go ahead and Google Richard Pryor, Chevy Chase, and you'll see exactly what it is. It was hilarious. It was either on the Richard Pryor, I think it was on the Richard Pryor show, because I don't think that would make it on Saturday Night Live. So it's probably on the Richard Pryor show. But what I want you to understand is that we live in a world of context, and I believe that people have lost. First of all, let me go back. I don't believe in the concept of common sense, because if common sense were common, everyone would have it. I do believe in the world of context, but I also believe that people have lost their sense of context. Because if I'm supposed to be standing in front of a room full, and as a speaker, I stand in front of a variety of audiences. If I'm standing, and this is often true, if I'm standing in a classroom full of 7th and 8th graders and I start spewing gay jokes, that's a problem. I'm going to be more specific, because I often go back and visit my grade school where I grew up and where I went to school. So if I'm standing in front of the 7th and 8th graders that are in the school where I sit in those exact same seats and I start spewing gay jokes, that's a problem. Why? The context. It's a Catholic school and these are children. That is neither the time nor place nor audience for the content I'd be delivering at that time. Which is why when I'm standing in front of those children, I don't talk about those things. I don't do gay jokes. I don't do jokes really, period. I'm not a comedian, contrary to popular belief. But what I want you to understand is that there's a time and a place and an arena for everything. And being that we live in a social media environment, a social media society, a social media world, you may not be present when whatever is said, but just because you weren't at the concert or the comedy club when the gay joke, the black joke, the white joke, the Jew joke, whatever joke was made, yeah. You might not have been there when whatever was said, but understand the environment in which the statement was made. If it's a comedy club, then it's a comedy club. And it's appropriate for a comedy club. Therefore, it's a joke. Shut up and laugh. Enjoy. Kick back and relax. Escape. Get away. That's what it's about. I believe that a lot of people take themselves too seriously. And it's sad. Listen, I crack jokes. And I have come to learn that I have to refrain from, I used to just, whatever came to my mind came out of my mouth. I blame my wife for domesticating my tongue. I'm going to leave that one alone. See, it's a matter of context. There's like several different directions that could have gone as a joke. And, we live in a society now in which you got to be careful what you say. You got to be careful whom you offend or may offend. Perfect example. Someone I look up to lost a job as a CNN commentator because he made some comments at the UN, at the United Nations. And nothing he said was false, but you can't talk about Jewish people. But if you talk, but understand, Jewish people listen, you want to call me anti-Semite? F you. Because I'm not speaking, again, it's a matter of context. I'm not speaking negatively against the Jewish people, but what I will say is this: you better not talk smack about the Jewish people, because if you talk smack about the Jewish people, or you talk in such a way that even they perceive themselves to be spoken negatively about, they have means and methods wherein which you will be shut down. It is what it is. But it's a matter of context. Even there, I think people need to just chill the F out. This is probably going to be the most realist. I need to do more late night podcasts. But I'll say this, because I'm real in the witching hour. But understand where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a place of honesty. I'm coming from a place of love. And I'm just coming from a place of being real. I'm coming from a place of being real. And I want you to understand that for the most part, most people don't mean any harm, especially if you're talking about comedians. But you have to be strong enough to live your truth. You have to be strong enough to understand you have the free will to live your life the way you choose. And not everybody has to live their life that way. Not everybody in life will live their lives that way. So if you live your life counter or contradictory to the way in which the majority or the mainstream or whatever lives their lives, you still live your truth. But don't expect, just because you live in your truth, that everybody has to accept your truth. And people may talk about your truth. People may joke about your truth. People may make fun of your truth. Shame only exists wherein which you feel ashamed of your truth. And if you feel ashamed of your truth, then it's not the person talking about your truth that's the problem. You are the problem, because you are not in grasp with your truth fully, because you feel shame. Can't nobody ever make me feel shamed about nothing. No one can make me feel shamed about anything I've ever done. Why? Because I know my dirt. I know the dirt I've done, and I've either accepted it and forgiven myself for it, or have even gone so far as to attempt or actually make amends with the people I've done that dirt against. And everything else in between, I just got to take with me to the grave and deal with on the other side. I'm not going to go through my life feeling shame. You can't make me feel shame. See, when you talk about slut shaming, fat shaming, black shaming, white shaming, Jew shaming, any kind of shaming, whatever kind of shaming you talking about. See, shaming only works if you actually let somebody allow you or make you to feel shame. And nobody can make you feel anything. You allow yourself to feel shame. If you're a woman and you want to sleep with 5 different guys in one 24-hour cycle, then that's your business. I'm not judging you. I'm not messing with you, but that's your business. If you want to eat and not take care of your body, and you want to let yourself swell up 350, 400, 500 pounds, that's your business. But you know what? Own your truth. If you own your truth, then the context doesn't matter. Own your truth. And then whatever is said ain't even about you, because it ain't about, it's not you, because you own your truth. I went way left, but I'm coming from the heart, and I hope you can understand that. I'm going to wrap this up because, again, it is the witching hour, and I've been talking for quite some time. I'm going to take myself to sleep right now. And I guarantee you there'll be another podcast later on in the day that'll be more motivational. But I think I'm going to do some more of these late night, midnight podcasts so that I can just really, really just unleash and vent. But in the meantime, I think the one thing you could take out of everything I've said thus far is this: love yourself, know yourself, and to thine own self be true. That way, no matter what anybody says, anywhere, anytime, anyhow, they can't touch you. Thank you for listening to the Ice Talks, where we implement change every day.